Well, this is my Fonda Crest TF1 team, and it's fitted with Chorus Campagnolo 4832 cranksets, and I've had them on the bike for about 8 months. So we're going to do a long-term review on what this crank's like after we roll that intro. Welcome back, guys, to Wano's Photos. And the 4832 crankset, originally I had it put on my Campagnolo C60, and it actually had some problems with the operation of the front derailleur on that bike for some reason. I'm not too sure why. So we swapped it over to the Fonda Crest, and on this bike here it's been working seamlessly. So depending on what the bikes are, it does affect the way that these systems work. And that's the same with a lot of different bikes, because the chainstays and everything vary. The position of where the crank sits on the bike and the bottom bracket, it varies slightly to every bike. But on this bike it's working really well. This bike, I have the HO Campagnolo 11 speed on the back with a road link to drop it down and 1136 cassette. So in that configuration it's running really nice. So why would you go to the bother of putting on a subcompact crankset on a bike? Well, the reason why I put it on is I'm just an average rider with an average power. If you're someone who can put out, who's probably like racing, who can put out a fair bit of watts and can hold like 300 watts or more, this crankset probably not for you. It does have some limitations on the top end. When you're getting up to around about 45, 50 kilometers an hour, you tend to sort of having to keep your cadence quite high, and you may not be the sort of rider that likes that. So it does have some limitations on the top end. But of course, what is a minus on one end of the range is a plus on the other. You can ride this bike, and up most gradients you can be fairly cruisy, and you can ride them up without having to really smash up the hill or be out of the saddle. So if you're someone who likes to sit in the saddle, or you've got some bike gear or extra weight, or you're not the trimmest sort of guy around, these sorts of gearing setups are really good. And I would probably say for most riders, this sort of gearing is probably better for most people. If you're a person who's got fit and you're starting to race, or you ride a lot of group rides, fast group rides, this crankset's probably not for you. Now this particular crankset is actually a 12 speed, and they have a slightly different chain on this 12 speed, but I've got 11 speed system on the back, and I've also got 11 speed shifters and everything else. So the question I had when I first bought this crankset is, will a 12 speed crankset work with a 11 speed chain, 11 speed rear end? And when I first put it on, as you might have recalled in my previous video on the 4832 first impressions, if you want to go and have a look at that, check out me on Wano's Photos on YouTube, or Wano's Photos Cycling on Instagram. And I'll talk about how when I first put it on, it actually had quite a bit of chain noise, and you could hear that, especially once you started to cross chain it. And you're sort of thinking, well, maybe they're not that compatible. But as you ride, as with all Campagnolo stuff, it wears in, and the sound starts to gradually deteriorate, and it just rides like any other normal, off-the-shelf, manufactured group set. Well, if you're someone like me who's not that fit or getting on in years, or you've just started cycling and you've probably got a little bit to remove around here, this sort of gearing is really something that you should really look at and put on your bike. I do believe it makes cycling more enjoyable, because not everyone's smashing it all the time when you ride a bike. You know, you want to cruise around sometimes when you do river rides. Sometimes you want to ride with people who are not as fit as you. And when you have these easier gears, it really makes cycling more enjoyable. And you also have situations where the weather's against you. You may have a headwind, or you're going up a hill and there's a headwind. And this sort of gearing, it gives you that extra selection when normally you run out of gears. And the great thing about it is you always feel like you've got a backup, because you very rarely get into the easiest cog. So it keeps the chain line a lot straighter on your bike, which is actually better for chain wear, and it's also better for efficiency. So that's what I reckon is a great reason to put this type of crankset on your bike. And okay, you might get a little bit of a grin or amusement from other people who are saying, hey, what are you putting that on your bike for? But once you start riding these compact, subcompact cranksets, you'll really realise that they're quite enjoyable just for general riding and having fun and building up your fitness. Well, that's it guys. Thanks for watching, and remember, check me out on One Nose Photos YouTube, One Nose Photos Cycling Instagram. Cheers. See you next vid. Keep riding.